Cleopatra. A name that reverberates through the ages like the echoes of a thunderstorm, both feared and revered. Her legacy is one of legend, where beauty, power, and intrigue blur the lines between myth and reality. But beyond the seductive allure and the golden crown lies the story of a woman whose intelligence, ambition, and ruthless strategies reshaped the fate of empires. Cleopatra was not just a queen, she was a force of nature. A queen who was willing to risk everything to defy destiny itself. Hold on tight, because her life is an epic story you'll never forget. Born in 69 BCE, Cleopatra was thrust into a world where kingship was not given by divine right but seized by strength and cunning. Her father, Ptolemy IV, ruled Egypt, but his reign was riddled with corruption and decline. Egypt's wealth was dwindling and the kingdom was facing an uncertain future. When Ptolemy IV died, leaving his throne to his daughter Cleopatra, the stage was set for a deadly struggle. At just 18 years old, she was crowned as queen alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy III. However, the alliance was a facade. Egypt was a powder keg, and the fuse had been lit. The siblings' rivalry ignited a brutal power struggle that would soon engulf their nation in flames. Cleopatra was no ordinary ruler. She wasn't content with simply sitting on a throne. She was a brilliant strategist, a queen who understood the deadly game of politics better than anyone around her. She wasn't just fighting for her throne, she was fighting for the very survival of Egypt. As tensions with her brother escalated into all-out war, Cleopatra found herself driven into exile. But this was not the end of her story. It was only the beginning. With everything at stake, Cleopatra, the young queen, would soon make a move that would shake the foundations of the ancient world. In her moment of exile, Cleopatra faced the most critical choice of her life. Egypt was on the brink of collapse, and Cleopatra knew that her only hope was to secure the favor of the most powerful man in the world, Julius Caesar. But what she did next would make her one of the most daring women in history. With no time to waste, she rolled herself into a carpet and had it delivered directly to Caesar's chambers. When the carpet unrolled, there she was, Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, a woman who would risk everything to make her presence known. This was no ordinary woman. This was a queen who knew how to command attention and secure her future. Caesar, stunned by her boldness and brilliance, immediately saw her as both an ally and a lover. What followed was an affair that would ignite the passions of Rome and the ancient world. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar weren't just lovers. They were a power duo whose alliance would change the course of history. Cleopatra bore Caesar a son, Caesarion, who symbolized the union of Egypt and Rome. For the first time in history, Egypt was not just a fading kingdom. It was a vital piece of the Roman chessboard, and Cleopatra had become an indomitable player. But with Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, everything changed. In one fateful stroke, Cleopatra lost the man who had been her greatest ally, and with him, her hopes of securing a lasting future for her kingdom. Caesar's death plunged the world into chaos. Rome was now ruled by his assassins, and Cleopatra found herself once again on the brink of ruin. But Cleopatra, never one to yield to fate, turned to another Roman general, Mark Antony. Like Caesar before him, Antony was drawn to Cleopatra's intellect, beauty, and ambition. Together they formed a new alliance, one that would rival the power of any empire. Antony and Cleopatra were not just political partners. Their passion for each other was undeniable. They were two forces of nature, both determined to reshape the world in their image. Together, they would challenge Rome's future. But little did they know, their partnership would lead them into the heart of an empire-wide struggle for dominance. The Battle of Actium in 31 BCE would be their final stand. It wasn't just a battle for control of Egypt. It was the moment that would decide the future of Rome itself. Mark Antony and Cleopatra's fleet faced off against Octavian, Caesar's heir, and his mighty forces. The tension was unbearable. The sky darkened as the two fleets collided in the waters off the coast of Greece. This was no ordinary battle. This was the clash of titans, where dreams of empire would either be realized or crushed forever. Cleopatra and Antony's forces fought with all their might, but fate was unforgiving. The battle was a crushing defeat. The winds of destiny had shifted, and Octavian's forces emerged victorious. Cleopatra's kingdom, her dreams, and her life were now hanging by a thread. But the story was not over. After the defeat, Cleopatra and Mark Antony retreated to Egypt, where they would make their final stand. In their final moments, they were surrounded by the might of Rome, with no way to escape. Mark Antony, believing Cleopatra was already dead, fell on his own sword in despair. When Cleopatra heard the news of his death, she was shattered. This was her last chance at survival, and now it was gone. Facing inevitable defeat, Cleopatra made the ultimate choice: to leave the world on her own terms. In a final act of defiance, she ended her life in 30 BCE, traditionally said to be by the bite of an asp. But even in death, Cleopatra would not be forgotten. Her legacy would live on, etched into the annals of history. Cleopatra was not just a queen. She was a warrior, a master of strategy, and a woman who understood the delicate balance of power in a world that constantly threatened to crush her. She navigated treachery, betrayal, and war with unparalleled skill, and her alliances with the greatest leaders of Rome would change the course of history. Cleopatra's reign was marked by her unyielding resolve to protect her people, her kingdom, and her legacy. Her death was not the end, it was the culmination of a life lived boldly, defiantly, and without apology. She fought for her place in a world dominated by men, and in doing so, she changed history forever. The world remembers Cleopatra not just as a beautiful queen, but as a brilliant and ruthless leader who knew how to use her mind, her charm, and her willpower to manipulate the forces of nature. Her story is one of ambition, betrayal, and sacrifice, a story that reminds us all that even in the face of overwhelming odds, one can rise to become an immortal figure, forever etched in the pages of history.